You wake up one morning feeling like you've been running uphill for years. Every effort, every sacrifice, every long night seems to have led you to a wall that just won't move. You start to wonder if maybe, just maybe, this isn't meant for you. But here's the secret. One that few people ever learn before they give up. The wall is not there to stop you. It's there to find out who truly wants what they say they want. The closer you are to breaking through, the stronger the resistance becomes. And that, my friend, is the surest sign that you're almost there. When we set out to achieve something worthwhile, the journey always begins with excitement. The dream is clear, and the path feels possible. But as time goes on, enthusiasm fades, and effort replaces inspiration. The nights get longer, the doubts get louder, and progress feels invisible. That's where most people turn back, right when the invisible line between struggle and success lies just a few steps ahead. The reason you feel drained, the reason the world feels heavy, is not because you're losing. It's because you're leveling up. Think of the miner who dug for gold, stopping just 3 feet from the richest vein he would ever have found. Or the inventor who tried 1,000 times before the final breakthrough on the 1,001st. History never remembers the ones who almost made it. It remembers the ones who refused to quit when every sensible reason told them to. The distance between almost and achieved is shorter than you think, but it can only be crossed by endurance. You see, quitting doesn't happen when you run out of strength. It happens when you run out of vision. When the mind forgets why the heart began, the hands stop working. So pause for a moment, not to rest in despair, but to remember what started you on this path. That vision you once held in the quiet of your soul, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's waiting for you to return to it with the wisdom that only struggle can teach. If you could stand a few years into your future and look back on today, you'd see how close you were. You'd see that the moment you felt most defeated was the very moment things were rearranging in your favor. Success doesn't announce its arrival. It whispers through fatigue and frustration, testing your faith. The question is, will you still take one more step when the road looks endless? Because that step, that single act of persistence, often carries the weight of everything you've been waiting for. So when you feel like giving up, remember, the battle isn't between you and failure. It's between you and almost. The world doesn't need another dreamer who stopped believing. It needs a finisher who kept going when it was hardest to do so. You don't need more strength, more luck, or more time. You just need to refuse to quit right now. Because you're not stuck. You're just steps away from the summit. Don't quit yet. This is the reason you're so close. There's a moment in every person's life when the weight of everything they've been striving for begins to feel heavier than they ever imagined. It's not that the dream has lost its value. It's that the climb has demanded more than they thought they could give. You know the feeling. The long nights where you lie awake wondering if the sacrifices have been worth it. The mornings where you stare at your reflection, searching for a spark that once burned effortlessly within you. You've been running, pushing, believing, yet somehow it feels like the finish line keeps moving further away. But what if that very struggle, that deep ache of exhaustion, is not a sign of failure, but a sign of proximity? What if the universe, in its quiet way, only tests those who are about to reach something extraordinary? We've been taught to believe that success is a straight path, that with enough effort and intelligence, results will appear on our timeline. But life doesn't work like a machine, it works like a mirror. It reflects not what we want, but who we are becoming. And in those moments of frustration, when you feel unseen, it's not that progress has vanished. It's that you've entered the part of the journey where the transformation is internal. The soil doesn't reveal the roots growing beneath it, but that doesn't mean growth isn't happening. In fact, the deepest growth always happens in silence, away from applause, away from recognition. When people say they've reached their limit, they often haven't reached their limit. They've reached the edge of their comfort. There's a difference. The human spirit is capable of extraordinary endurance, but it only reveals its true strength under pressure. You can't discover how powerful you are by staying in the familiar. Pressure is not punishment. It is the proof that you're being prepared for something more. The resistance you feel is not the universe closing a door. It's the friction required to polish your potential. A diamond doesn't become brilliant without pressure. Steel doesn't become strong without fire. And you, too, cannot become who you were meant to be without the struggle that demands more of you than you've ever given before. Most people stop when they are tired. But the truth is, fatigue is not the signal to quit. It's the signal that you are investing energy into something meaningful. Think about it. You don't get tired from walking downhill. You get tired from climbing upward. Fatigue doesn't mean failure. It means you're in motion, moving against gravity, against complacency, against every excuse that once kept you small. Every great accomplishment, every moment of real change, happens just beyond the point of exhaustion, because the mind gives up long before the body does. It's not your ability that limits you. It's your willingness to continue when the excitement fades. There's a hidden rhythm to success, one that few people understand. The beginning is loud and thrilling. The end, when the dream is achieved, is celebrated. But the middle, the part where nothing seems to work, that's where destiny is decided. That's where the majority turn back, convinced that silence means defeat. But the truth is, silence means gestation. It's the invisible phase where your actions are aligning with results that haven't yet shown themselves. Just because the world hasn't clapped for you yet doesn't mean your effort is wasted. The seed doesn't see the sun while it's growing, but it keeps pushing toward it. The most dangerous illusion is thinking that the lack of visible progress means there is none. You may not see the fruits of your labor immediately, but every step, every repetition, every small act of discipline compounds quietly, building momentum in the unseen. You are never wasting effort when you are working towards something you believe in. You are sculpting your future stroke by stroke, even when it looks like nothing's changing. And one day, all at once, the structure you've been building in the dark will stand tall in the light. So when your faith trembles, when your motivation feels thin, remember this: the moment right before the dawn always feels like endless night. That's because breakthroughs don't announce themselves. They disguise themselves as challenges. The feeling that tells you it's too hard, too far, too impossible, is not a warning, it's an invitation. It's life asking, do you still want it enough to keep going? Those who say yes, quietly, firmly, without needing proof, are the ones who end up holding the reward. Right now, you might be standing inches from the very thing you've been working for, without even realizing it, and that's why you can't stop. Not now. Not when everything in you is aching to rest. Because that ache, that weight, that doubt, it's not the end. It's the sign that you're closer than ever before. Every challenge has a rhythm, and you're nearing the crescendo. Hold your ground. Push once more. Don't quit yet. This is the reason you're so close. When you first begin a journey towards something meaningful, it all feels vivid and alive. The air seems to hum with possibility. You wake up with purpose, your energy is sharp and focused. Every small success feels like a promise that greater things are just ahead. But time has a way of testing desire. The novelty fades, the pace slows, and suddenly the very thing that once filled you with excitement begins to demand more than enthusiasm. It asks for endurance. The dream, once effortless to imagine, starts to weigh heavy on your shoulders. It's in this stretch of the journey where many lose their way, not because they lack ability, but because they mistake difficulty for defeat. There's a law in life that never fails: everything worthwhile will challenge you. Nothing of real value is given easily, because what comes easily leaves easily. The path to mastery, success, or fulfillment is designed not to reward the impatient, but to sculpt the resilient. When the rush of beginning fades, what remains is the truth of your commitment. It's easy to be dedicated when you're inspired. The test comes when you're exhausted and progress feels invisible. And that's the quiet turning point where most people step back, unaware that they are only inches from a breakthrough. Progress in anything, whether it's building a business, improving your craft, or changing your life, rarely follows a straight line. It moves in cycles, with periods of rapid growth and periods of stillness that feel like stagnation. But what feels like nothing happening is often the period of consolidation, where the lessons are sinking in, where your foundation is strengthening. The universe withholds visible progress not to punish you, but to prepare you. Just as a tree spends years developing roots before it ever reaches for the sky, so too must your effort deepen before it can expand. The waiting, the repetition, the invisible grind, All of it is necessary. It's the unseen labor that makes the visible success possible. But because we live in a world that glorifies results and ignores process, we've been conditioned to expect instant proof that what we're doing is working. And when that proof doesn't appear right away, we start doubting the process, doubting ourselves. Yet, the truth is that success doesn't operate on your schedule. It operates on the law of cause and effect. You can control the cause, but not the timing of the effect. You plant the seed, you water it, you protect it, but you cannot force it to bloom before its time. Impatience has killed more dreams than failure ever did, because impatience leads people to walk away, not realizing the soil was just beginning to stir. The middle of the journey, the part where you can't yet see results, is the most sacred and most dangerous place. Sacred, because that's where transformation truly happens. Dangerous, because it's where most give up. It's in that middle space that faith becomes more important than evidence. You must learn to trust the process when the process stops feeling good. You must hold the vision even when your surroundings contradict it. That's the difference between those who succeed and those who don't. It's not intelligence, or luck or talent. It's the refusal to be discouraged by temporary silence. Every day you continue to move forward, even slightly. You're accumulating momentum that you can't yet measure. Think of it like a flywheel, a heavy wheel that takes enormous effort to start turning. At first, it barely moves. You push with all your might and see almost nothing change. But each push adds energy, each rotation becomes easier, and eventually, the wheel begins to turn on its own. That's how progress works. The first stages feel unrewarding, even hopeless, because the results are compounding beneath the surface. But once you reach the tipping point, it becomes unstoppable. Most people underestimate the power of consistency because they crave the visible reward. They want reassurance, something they can measure. But growth doesn't reassure, it challenges. Every time you show up when you don't feel like it, you're training your mind to obey your purpose rather than your emotions. You're strengthening your discipline, the one muscle that separates those who merely wish from those who achieve. The small, daily actions that seem insignificant are the bricks of your foundation. Miss one, and the wall still stands. Miss too many, and it collapses. There will come a time when your effort feels like it's disappearing into a void. That's when you must remember silence does not mean nothing is happening. It means everything is happening, but not in ways you can yet see. The world doesn't reward you for starting. It rewards you for staying. And staying is the art of believing when your senses give you no reason to. You are not stuck. You are building pressure, building character, building strength. The dream that called you in the beginning is still calling you now. It's quieter because it's testing whether you still recognize it without the applause. The middle of your journey is not a punishment. It's proof that you are in motion. And motion, even slow motion, is life. So keep moving, keep building, keep trusting. The moment you decide not to quit is the moment you begin to win, even if the world hasn't caught up to your progress yet. In every generation, there are those who begin the climb toward greatness with fire in their hearts and dreams in their minds. But somewhere along the path, the fire flickers. The enthusiasm that once pushed them forward gives way to doubt. And often, that doubt arrives just before the moment of discovery. It's a strange truth of life that the resistance we feel increases the closer we get to the breakthrough. Just as dawn is darkest before the light appears, the journey feels hardest right before the reward reveals itself. Most never realize this. They assume the struggle is a sign to turn back, when in truth, it's an invitation to push forward just a little longer. The stories of success we celebrate are never stories of ease. They are stories of endurance. The miner who struck gold after years of digging didn't suddenly become lucky on his final day. He simply refused to walk away one day too soon. The scientist who tested 1,000 failures didn't have a special formula for resilience. He had an understanding that every failure was not a dead end, but a necessary step toward clarity. The inventor, the artist, the athlete, the dreamer. None of them succeeded because the path was easy. They succeeded because they learned that difficulty is not the enemy. It's the evidence that they are working on something real. There is an invisible threshold that separates those who almost succeed from those who actually do. It isn't marked by talent, resources, or opportunity. It's marked by the decision to persist when the world stops applauding. The difference between almost and achieved is smaller than you think, but it requires one more step than most are willing to take. Life rewards persistence in ways that are invisible until the very last moment. The problem is, most people want visible reassurance before they continue. They want certainty before commitment. But progress doesn't work that way. It demands that you walk in faith long before you see proof. Endurance is not about ignoring exhaustion, it's about recognizing what it means. When you feel tired, when everything in you says to stop, that feeling is not failure, it's transformation. It's the shedding of the weaker version of you that can't carry what the next stage requires. Growth has always been painful because it means letting go of comfort. The body aches after a hard workout not because it's breaking down, but because it's building strength. The same is true of your spirit. The fatigue you feel when pursuing your dream is not a punishment. It's the necessary friction that strengthens your will. We've all seen people give up right before they were about to succeed. A student drops out just before graduation. A writer burns their manuscript before it's published. A business owner closes the doors months before the breakthrough arrives. They convince themselves that their effort was wasted, when in truth, it was compounding beneath the surface. Success, like nature, operates on delay. The seed doesn't sprout the moment you plant it. The reward doesn't appear the day you begin the work. The waiting period is part of the law of growth. It's during that delay that your patience, resilience, and focus are forged. The test of persistence is not whether you can keep going when things are going well. It's whether you can keep going when you have no proof that it's working. Anyone can be enthusiastic at the beginning, but the masters of life are those who remain disciplined in the middle. They understand that the universe does not hand out rewards for enthusiasm alone. It grants them to those who remain steady under pressure. Endurance is the invisible currency that buys every great outcome. Each time you choose to continue in the face of discouragement, you make a deposit into your future. There's a lesson written into every trial. When you meet resistance, it's not a wall meant to keep you out. It's a signal that you're near something worth reaching. Resistance exists only where potential exists. No one struggles at the bottom of a mountain. The struggle begins when the climb becomes steep. That's because resistance is a companion to ascent. It doesn't mean stop. It means continue carefully, persist deliberately, and trust deeply. The higher you climb, the thinner the air becomes, and the fewer people you'll find there. But also the clearer the view. Think of every great figure in history, every builder, thinker, and pioneer. Their defining moment was not the day they succeeded. It was the day they refused to give up when success seemed impossible. The moment of decision is always quiet. No spotlight, no applause. Just one person standing before their own limitations and saying, "I will not stop." That choice, repeated often enough, bends reality in their favor. Persistence, over time, becomes a force of nature. If you ever find yourself at the edge of despair, unsure whether to continue, remember this: every failure, every setback, every unanswered effort is preparing you in ways you cannot yet see. You are being shaped for something that requires this exact experience. The universe never wastes struggle, it recycles it into strength. You might be one conversation, one idea, one sunrise away from the moment everything changes. But you'll never know if you stop now. So keep digging, keep building, keep walking even when the path looks endless. Because one day, perhaps sooner than you think, you'll strike gold, not because you were lucky, but because you refused to stop swinging the pickaxe when others did. And when that day comes, you'll understand that the struggle was never against the world. It was against the temptation to quit just before the miracle. There comes a time in every pursuit when the body can still move, but the mind begins to whisper reasons to stop. It says, "You've done enough. Maybe it's not meant to be. Maybe this dream was never yours." It's in these moments that the greatest battles are fought, not in the world around us, but within. For the true test of endurance is not physical, it is spiritual. When the vision that once inspired you fades under the weight of discouragement, you're not facing defeat, you're facing forgetfulness. You've forgotten why you began. And that is where most journeys end, not from exhaustion, but from disconnection between the present struggle and the original purpose. Every great endeavor starts with a vision so clear it feels almost tangible. You can see it, touch it, taste it. That clarity fuels you through the early stages when excitement is still abundant. But as you move forward, the world begins to challenge that vision. Obstacles appear. Doubt creeps in. The applause grows faint. The once vivid picture starts to blur, and you begin to question if you were ever capable of making it real. Yet, the truth is simple: the vision never leaves you. It waits for you to remember it. The purpose that called you at the beginning is still there. It has not disappeared. Only your focus is shifted. When you realign with that purpose, strength returns as if it had been waiting patiently for you to rediscover it. The human mind is a powerful creator, but it's also easily distracted by temporary emotions. When you feel lost or unmotivated, it's rarely because you've run out of ability. It's because your mind has lost sight of the reason behind your effort. The mind feeds on meaning. When meaning fades, energy follows. This is why reconnecting with your why is essential. The person who knows why they are working can endure almost anyhow. Purpose transforms fatigue into fuel. It turns pain into proof that you're still alive and still striving for something that matters. Consider how a sailor navigates a storm. He doesn't curse the waves or abandon the wheel. He remembers the destination. The storm may rage, the sky may darken, but as long as he keeps his eyes on the compass, he can adjust, endure, and continue. Purpose works the same way. When you know where you're going, you can withstand the wind. When you forget, even calm seas can feel overwhelming. Most people don't fail because they face storms. They fail because they lose sight of the shore. There will be times when you feel as though your efforts are invisible, your progress non-existent. These moments are not meant to defeat you. They are meant to deepen you. They are invitations to reconnect with your inner compass. Ask yourself, why did I begin? What do I stand to become if I continue? What would I regret if I walked away now? Those questions reignite the spark that no setback can extinguish. When you remember why you started, the burden becomes lighter, not because it weighs less, but because you've grown stronger. It's important to understand that emotions are fleeting, but decisions define destiny. You can't rely on feeling motivated every day, no one can. But you can choose to act from principle instead of mood. That's what separates those who finish from those who falter. The one who continues, even without enthusiasm, discovers a deeper kind of power, the power of discipline. Motivation starts the journey, but discipline carries it through the darkness. When your energy wanes, let your decision to persist become your light. Think of all the times you were on the verge of giving up but didn't, and later realized that everything changed soon after. That's not coincidence. That's the pattern of perseverance. Life rewards those who stay long enough to see their work mature. Most people quit in the middle of their story and never see the ending that was waiting for them. But those who keep walking, one deliberate step at a time, find that what seemed like failure was simply an unfinished chapter. When the noise of doubt grows loud, silence it with memory. Remember the excitement of the beginning, the conviction you once had that this path mattered. You began this journey for a reason, and that reason is still valid. The challenges haven't appeared to mock you. They've appeared to measure how deeply you believe in what you said you wanted. Every obstacle is asking the same question. Do you still mean it? If you can answer yes, even when the road feels endless, you've already won half the battle. So when you feel drained, don't stop to measure how far you've come or how far you have left to go. Look inward. Revisit that original flame, the one that lit your way before fatigue dimmed it. You'll find it's still burning, waiting to guide you forward. The dream hasn't left you, it's testing your loyalty. Keep your eyes on it. Keep your heart aligned with it, and you'll find that the strength you thought you'd lost was never gone. It was merely waiting for you to remember why you began. Imagine standing in front of your life as though it were a grand tapestry, only half complete. The design you've envisioned, the dream, the success, the peace, exists only faintly. You can see hints of it, outlines perhaps, but the picture is unfinished. Each day, through your choices, your discipline, and your persistence, you add threads to that design. But there comes a point, always, when the pattern seems chaotic, the colors mismatched, and the effort meaningless. It's at this stage that many walk away, unaware that one more day, one more stroke, one more ounce of faith would have brought the masterpiece into focus. The truth is, life tests every dream through silence. The greater your goal, the deeper the silence before it speaks back to you. You have to understand something that few ever do. The moment you feel furthest from your goal is often the moment you are closest to it. There is a rhythm to achievement, a hidden symmetry between frustration and fulfillment. The tension you feel when nothing seems to move is not the end of the story. It is the tightening of the bow before the release. The resistance, the exhaustion, the doubt, they all signal that the forces around you are gathering, aligning, preparing to shift in your favor. But only for those who stand firm. For the world, as strange as it may seem, bends not to brilliance alone, but to perseverance. There is a point in every worthwhile pursuit where you can no longer rely on visible progress to keep you going. You must draw strength from belief alone. It is a difficult lesson because everything in our nature craves reassurance. We want to see movement, feel growth, know that our effort is paying off. But the unseen work is always the most important. The roots of a tree must strengthen underground long before branches reach the sky. And so it is with you. The quiet seasons of endurance are where your foundation is forged. When the reward finally arrives, it won't just be the product of your skill. It will be the proof of your patience. It's easy to trust life when things go smoothly. The true measure of a person is not how they act in comfort, but how they behave in uncertainty. Can you still take another step when everything in you says you've gone far enough? Can you still believe in yourself when no one else does? That is the crucible of growth, the fire through which every dreamer must pass. Those who avoid it remain ordinary. Those who endure it become unstoppable. Because every time you refuse to surrender, you teach your mind that you are stronger than circumstance. You train your spirit to outlast fatigue, and that endurance becomes your power. Faith is not a feeling. It is a decision to keep walking even when you cannot see the path ahead. It is the courage to act without evidence, the quiet conviction that something meaningful is taking shape even as the world remains silent. Many people misunderstand this. They think faith is passive, something you merely hold in your heart. But real faith is active. It shows itself through action in the absence of reward. When you keep going despite the doubt, you are not just hoping. You are creating. Every step forward is a declaration that your future will not be dictated by your fears. And what happens when you persist? Slowly the world begins to respond. Not at once, not in the way you expect, but subtly. The opportunities you once chased start to align themselves with your path. The effort that seemed wasted begins to reveal its purpose. The doors that were closed start to open, and what once felt impossible begins to feel inevitable. But only for those who stayed long enough to see it unfold. Patience is not waiting. It is the art of continuing with trust. There's a moment in every long pursuit when you feel as though you've done everything you can, and still nothing has changed. That is the turning point, the moment that separates those who finish from those who falter. Because if you push once more, if you give one final effort when you have nothing left to give, you discover something miraculous. The barrier that looked unbreakable was thinner than you thought. The victory was waiting on the other side of that one last push. When you look back on your life, you'll realize that the times that felt most hopeless were the ones that shaped you the most. You'll see that the struggle wasn't a detour. It was the direct path to strength. The fatigue, the waiting, the long nights of doubt, they were not delays. They were preparation. Every test, every setback, every quiet day of perseverance was life's way of refining you into someone capable of holding the success you were seeking. Because success without struggle is like a house without foundation. It may look impressive, but it cannot stand. So when you find yourself wary and uncertain, remember this: what you are experiencing is not a sign that you're failing, but that you're close. The pressure you feel is not punishment. It is the evidence of progress. The silence you face is not absence. It is the echo of the breakthrough approaching. Keep your head high. Keep your faith steady. Because often, the difference between victor and surrender is nothing more than one more day of believing. There will come a time when everything inside you says to stop. When the dream that once felt unstoppable now feels impossible. The mind begins to whisper doubts, subtle and convincing. What if I've gone as far as I can? What if this is the end of the road? But those thoughts are not truth, they are tests. They appear at the threshold of every great achievement. They are the final guardians that stand before every finish line, asking one question that determines destiny. Will you keep going? Because life, in its quiet wisdom, saves the hardest trials for the moments just before triumph. It does this not to break you, but to prove that you deserve what you've been asking for. It's in that last stretch, the one filled with exhaustion, uncertainty, and silence, that the true winners are separated from those who almost made it. Most people stop not because they lack ability, but because they can no longer bear the feeling of uncertainty. They want assurance before effort, comfort before completion, applause before arrival. But the world doesn't work that way. You don't get confirmation that you're close until after you've crossed the line. The feeling of wanting to quit is not a signal to stop. It's a sign that you're exactly where transformation happens. The closer you get to something extraordinary, the louder the voice of doubt becomes. That's because you're approaching the part of the journey where you can no longer rely on momentum. You must rely on meaning. Think of the mountain climber who reaches the final ascent. The air thins, the body trembles, the summit seems distant, though it's only a few hundred feet away. Many turn back at that point, not realizing that their strength is greater than the pain they feel. The mountain doesn't get steeper because it wants to defeat the climber. It gets steeper because it's preparing to reveal its view only to those who can endure the climb. Life follows the same rule. It withholds its highest rewards until you've proven you can stand in the thin air of persistence. In these moments of trial, it's easy to confuse fatigue with failure. Fatigue simply means you've been working. Failure means you've stopped. There's an old truth that every builder, artist, and dreamer eventually learns. Success is not found in brilliance, but in endurance. The road to greatness is littered with those who had talent but lacked persistence, intelligence but lacked resolve. And then, scattered among them, are the few who simply refused to give up. They weren't necessarily the fastest or the strongest, but they were the ones who took one more step, even when that step hurt. They didn't wait for motivation to return. They acted despite its absence. You see, the most powerful force in your life isn't inspiration. It's determination. Inspiration can start a fire, but determination keeps it burning when the winds of difficulty try to blow it out. Every time you choose to continue when quitting seems reasonable, you carve a new layer of strength into your character. You prove to yourself that your will is stronger than circumstance. And that discovery changes everything, because once you've learned that you can endure, no obstacle can truly stop you again. There is a kind of quiet power that grows in people who persist. It doesn't announce itself, it doesn't seek attention. But it's unmistakable. You can see it in their eyes, hear it in their voice, feel it in their presence. It's the calm of someone who's walked through failure and didn't let it define them. Someone who has felt doubt and kept walking anyway. That kind of strength cannot be taught, it must be earned. It is the reward of the one who refuses to quit. And so, when you reach that point where you feel you've given everything, pause not to surrender, but to remember what you've already overcome. Remember the storms that didn't destroy you, the challenges that didn't defeat you, the moments when you thought you were finished and still found a way forward. You've been preparing for this all along. Everything you've endured has been shaping you for this exact moment. The resistance you feel is not a reason to turn back. It's proof that you've come too far to stop now. There's a quiet truth about life that only the persistent come to understand. Breakthroughs rarely arrive with a shout. They appear in silence. One more day of effort, one more act of courage, one more refusal to give up. That's usually all it takes. The finish line is rarely visible until you're crossing it. That's why the world belongs to those who can endure the unseen stretch, who can believe without proof, who can act with faith rather than sight. So when you're standing on the edge of your endurance, when the noise of doubt fills your mind, and every fiber of your being says to quit, remember this: you are not failing, you are arriving. You are in the final stage of transformation, where the old version of you gives way to the one who can hold everything you've been working for. The pressure, the silence, the struggle, they're not signs of the end. They are the final test before the reward. Take a breath, steady your spirit, and take one more step, because you're not finished. You're almost there. And if you refuse to quit now, Everything you've dreamed of will finally meet you where you stand. And now we arrive at the quiet truth that ties it all together. Every struggle, every doubt, every late night spent wondering if it's worth it, all of it has been leading you here. The world has a way of testing those who dare to dream, not to punish them, but to shape them into the kind of people capable of carrying the weight of what they've asked for. You've learned that the moments of exhaustion were not signs of weakness. They were proof of growth. You've learned that silence is not emptiness, but preparation. And above all, you've learned that the urge to quit is not the end. It is the signal that you are standing at the edge of breakthrough. Life rewards those who stay when it would be easier to go. The ones who hold the vision when no one else can see it. The ones who find strength in patience and meaning in persistence. It's not the loudest or the luckiest who rise. It's the ones who refuse to turn back when the journey grows dark. Because on the other side of that darkness is not just success, it's transformation. You don't walk out of the storm the same person who walked in. You walk out wiser, stronger, and more capable of guiding others through their own. So when the world grows quiet and the path feels endless, remember everything you've discovered. Remember that the wall in front of you is not there to stop you. It's there to show you how close you are. You've come too far to surrender now. Hold your ground. Trust your process. Believe in the invisible progress that's still unfolding in your favor. Because one day soon, you'll look back and realize the moment you wanted to give up was the very moment you were being rewritten. The pain was polishing you. The delay was aligning things. The doubt was strengthening your faith. And in that reflection, you'll understand the timeless truth that life has been whispering all along. Don't quit yet. This is the reason you're so close.